Welcome to He Met Me in the Middle. I'm Breanne Sims, RN and co-founder of Kingdom Valley.
And I'm Sheri Johnson. I'm a functional nutrition and lifestyle practitioner, and I own Empowered Health Coaching.
And today we have a very fun guest who I think you're going to find very interesting. We met a few years ago at a business conference, actually. And so I'm just going to give you a little background and then let her share some of her journey. This is Rebecca of The Honest Homeschool. She has been a homeschool mom for a long time. She's a former Christian school teacher, and after years around her own kitchen table, and even more in her own classroom, she now equips families to homeschool with confidence, clarity, and peace. She's also a mom of a child with special needs, so she brings compassion and practical wisdom to the family she serves. And in recent years, her work has expanded into natural wellness after her family walked through a season of illness that led them to explore more holistic ways of supporting healing at home. So what started as a necessity became conviction, and today she helps homeschool families build homes that nurture learning, faith, and physical well-being all together. So yeah, we're excited to have her share some of her journey today and just what that has looked like.
Thank you so much, Breanne and Sheri, for inviting me. I really appreciate that, and I'm excited to be here. I always love to talk about homeschooling. That's one of my favorite things. After talking about Jesus and my family, then I'll talk about homeschooling. So yes, thank you so much for having me. And so I thought I'll just start with my story and how we got started on this journey. So I didn't grow up dreaming of homeschooling. I am a product of the public school system all the way through public college. And so it's not something that was on my heart for a long time. Honestly, I thought I was going to be a career woman and work forever. So in the 90s, that's what everybody did. We all worked, and we went to college and we got big old jobs and we worked forever. So that's what I thought I was going to be doing. So we were in Southern California, my husband and I at the time, and the Lord brought us this family who homeschooled their kids. And I was like, what are you doing? And actually this family, the dad was homeschooling the kids because, just through life circumstances, he had gotten laid off and decided just to stay home and homeschool his girls. And we met those kiddos, and they were the most impressive young ladies you've ever met. They were gracious, confident, comfortable talking with adults. They could walk into a room of adults and they're like, 10 years old and just have a conversation and feel comfortable. It really did something to my heart. I thought something's different here. And truly they were, and they are still very dear friends of ours. Now those girls, of course, have grown, have their own kiddos, and they're homeschooling. So that family started something that's continued through generations, which is huge. So as I said, I thought I was just going to be a career woman and just work. But after my second child, my daughter, I had a son and then I had my daughter, and the Lord started working on my heart. And as I got to stay home with her for a while, but then time came for me to go back to work and my heart was breaking. So every day at that point, we hired a nanny to come to our home, and every day when I'd leave and drive away, I would just cry on the way to work. And something was not settling. Something was different. And so the Lord was sort of speaking to me, and I realized that these were the children that we had prayed for, right? We had prayed for our children, and we had also suffered 3 miscarriages. So we had already lost some babies too, and that was very, very difficult. And I think that changed my heart as well, walking through that. That was really hard. But my husband and I just came to the same page where we just couldn't shake this feeling that handing over our babies to somebody else to care for all day just wasn't what he wanted us to do. So we started praying, and we didn't know how we could do it financially. That was the big thing. How was I going to stay home, leave my job? I was working for a large university, making good money. I had actually just finished putting my husband through graduate school. And at some point, I think it was at that point, I actually had the bigger salary than my husband. And I was we didn't know, the numbers weren't working out. How can I walk away from this job? And we just prayed and put it before the Lord. And we decided, okay, we can't do it here in Southern California, but there are other places we can move. And we had people up in Washington. We went to visit them, fell in love with Washington. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous up there. Easy to fall in love with that place. About 3 months later, my husband started circulating his resume. He's a public school English teacher and in the high school, at the high school level, and he got a job right away. And so that summer we packed up 2 cars and 2 kiddos and drove up from California to Washington. And just like that, I became a stay-at-home mom and then a stay-at-home homeschooling mom. So when we arrived in Washington, my oldest was 4 and my daughter was 2. So we weren't really doing official homeschooling at that age, but I was certainly looking into it and trying to figure out how to do it. But at one point, I realized that I didn't know anything about this homeschool thing that I was going to do. I knew I was called to it. I knew the Lord was blessing us, and He kept bringing people into our lives who homeschooled their kids, but I didn't know how to do it. And so I met with a close girlfriend and sat down in this coffee shop, and I said, okay, just give me a game plan. Give me a list and I'll go do that. Just tell me how to start this. And it was a very impactful meeting. She was so gracious and patient with me, and I just sitting there crying and crying, not knowing what the heck I was doing. And she was just so great and counseled me on how to get started. So I did what she told me, and together with my kids, we learned how to homeschool. And that's really one thing that has become sort of a key part of the homeschool coaching that I do now, is that I teach moms that it's okay to learn together with your kids. It's okay to start something and not know what you're doing, but you can figure it out every step of the way. And the Lord is going to meet you there. Sometimes it takes that first step, right? We have to take that step, and then He meets us there. And then He meets us on the next step. So that's what I did. And sometimes I joke that me and my kids, we were in elementary school together. We were all figuring it out together. So that's how we started in Washington. And then soon enough, we had our third child who has special needs. And that he changed everything. Andrew was born with Down syndrome, and he has some cerebral palsy in one leg as well, which affects his walking. He does walk. He wears a brace. He's 24 years old now, an athlete. He wears a brace and he runs, he plays basketball. In fact, we were talking about Orlando, Florida. The reason we were in Orlando was because Andrew was playing in the Special Olympics USA Games in 2022 on the unified basketball team. So he is amazing. And he changed our life, definitely. Definitely deepened our dependence on the Lord, for sure. Because there was another one of those times, well, I don't know how to raise a child with Down syndrome. I have no idea. So, but over time, the Lord spoke to me that it was about, I was getting older. My homeschool journey was coming to an end. He told me it was time to sort of embrace the Titus 2 calling of older women and start helping younger women in their journey. So one day the Lord just gave me this kind of download of this homeschooling business. And I thought, oh, okay, who is this for, Lord? What am I supposed to do with this information? I was furiously taking notes on my phone, and I didn't know who it was for. And I kept praying about it. And then finally He said, it's for you. It's yours. You do this. And I'm like, oh, okay. Again, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm stepping out and I'm going to do this and try to help other moms on their journey too. So that's how the business got started. It's because the Lord told me to do it. So we were in Washington. I started my business, was coaching. It was doing great. I actually had 2 other ladies. I know you guys work together. I had 2 other ladies that we worked together at the Honest Homeschool. They've had other things happen now. So right now it's just me going solo. So it's a little different, but I still love coaching moms. There's so many things to talk about with homeschooling. It's not, people think sometimes it's just the curriculum. Well, there is no perfect curriculum out there. there's lots of lovely, wonderful homeschool curriculums, but nothing is perfect. It all has to kind of be tweaked a little bit for your family dynamic and for your children. Kiddos are not the same, even, in the same family. They don't learn the same. So it's the same curriculum. Sometimes has to be tweaked or adapted a little bit for another child, So there's a lot of things that we go over in coaching, curriculum, how to schedule your day. One thing I also love to talk about with moms in my coaching business is how to deschool. And deschooling is kind of a new term for a lot of people, but it's kind of going through a process of undoing our preconceived ideas of what education is supposed to be. We've a lot of us, if you're like me, grew up thinking that school meant 30 kids in the same age group with one teacher, that kind of thing. And you're ruled by the bell on the clock on the wall. You can only go outside at certain times, that sort of thing. So homeschool doesn't have to look like that at all. So part of deschooling is undoing what we thought it was. And once you do that, you release yourself to hear what the Lord wants your homeschool to look like. So that's the part of coaching that I love, is teaching moms to kind of reinvent education. What could it can look like for your family? Because your family is unique, your kids are unique. It's going to look different. And so together we walk through figuring out how they can meet the needs of their family and create the homeschool that blesses their family. So it's just not about just curriculum. It's everything. And another thing we talk about is when to start homeschooling. A lot of moms, again, we think that there is something about the age of 5, right? That public school has created this system, again, that there is something about the age of 5. Well, there's really no magic about the age of 5. 5 is wonderful. I love 5-year-olds, but not every 5-year-old is ready to sit down and start learning. So, that's another thing to undo. And maybe your child's not ready to learn to read until 7, and that's okay. And maybe they can do it at 4. Maybe they can do it at 5, but 7 or 8 even is just fine. So, and it's interesting because sometimes kiddos, when we think they're ready to start, we start them at 5, we start teaching them to read, and it's just a struggle. It's just a struggle. And sometimes mom and the kids just, are butting heads over it. I think that's a clue that they're not ready. And in that, if you kept going at that with that child who was pushing against it so much and struggling, it might take a long time for them to understand and learn to be a real good reader, right? Because it's just a struggle. Every day is a struggle. Whereas if you put those books down for a while and then gave him time to just grow up, him or her, to grow up a little bit and to mature just a little bit, maybe at age 7, you could start that again and they'd be reading in 2 months. They're just ready to do it. Their body is ready. Their brain is ready to do it at that age. So there's a lot of flexibility in there. Again, I keep saying this is the greatest thing about homeschooling, is that there's freedom to do that sort of thing. And it's okay if your kid doesn't read until 7. It's okay. So
It kind of reminds me of like when you're potty training, right? It's like not all kids are ready at that age that they think is potty training time. So it's like,
mhm.
yeah, listening to your child really and not pushing them too hard because their bodies aren't ready.
Right,
Their mind's not
exactly.
ready,
Mhm,
whatever it is.
mhm,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It
mhm.
really does.
Yep,
Yeah.
agreed. My kids were completely different, and I did some homeschooled them some too for a few years at different points, and they were just complete opposites and just so different in every way that yeah, you really I like I think it's good encouragement to say, like, get to know your child and be patient with them, because you have all these preconceived notions and just these expectations of every child is going to do this exactly at the right time and come out on the other side. And that's just not the case, you know. So I think sometimes we forget that we had struggles when we were kids learning too, and so we have to be patient with our own kids and give them time to mature and learn how to learn, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And so yeah, our kids skipped around different grades, and we were patient with them and in different ways, you know. Started them later, but then they caught up so much quicker that we ended up skipping them ahead, and so their learning is just so different for each of them. And yeah, you just wouldn't know that either of them had struggled with anything. Now they're all grown up like your kids and graduating from college actually. But it's amazing to see the progress, you know, over their whole lives, especially when you've homeschooled and been really involved in their education. It's amazing to see God work in their hearts and lives, you know, over that whole journey, and just how God uses that. It's been an amazing journey. So I think that's awesome. I love that encouragement to let go of expectations, because we go into it with a lot, too many, I think, especially as young moms, you know. Yeah.
Sure. And it's teaching us as moms just as much as the kids to reimagine what education can look like, for sure.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like I didn't homeschool at all. Honestly, couldn't have imagined it, really. And I think we're raising children about the same time. And it's like, and my youngest was a challenge as well with ADHD. And so that's probably why I couldn't imagine it, because I had to work with homework and it was like, ah. But anyway, I like the part where you can make it whatever it is, however it fits into your family. And, you know, knowing that now, and knowing some of the things that my kids have gone through, it would have been a much better choice, I think, you know.
Yeah. It's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. I mean, there are challenges. It's not going to be, you know, unicorns and rainbows every day. There are going to be lovely times, and the time to create connection with your kids and really get to know them is beautiful. But there are days that are not like that, that are hard. And I mean, it's hard just raising kids, whether you homeschool or not. Parenting is hard. And so yeah, I don't want to say that it's all perfect all the time, because that's certainly not. And that's part of our journey with the Lord too, right? To press into him and lean into him even when math feels like a nightmare, and he'll meet us there too, and help us to, you know, show us how maybe we need to change our teaching approach. Maybe we do need new curriculum, but oftentimes in my experience, it's just been a relationship shift between the mom and child, and maybe it's the wrong time of day. I always say do math first in the morning, you know, devotions and then math while everybody's fresh and happy. If you try to do it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's going to be a struggle, probably.
It's not as fun.
It's fun for sure. So
I find that interesting. Praying before math, huh?
oh, praying before, during, yes.
The whole time. Agreed. So do you have, you know, sometimes when we were homeschooling, I would feel really burnt out with the paperwork. I hated all of like they have to fill out so many papers, and then you have to handle each paper and make sure that they're learning what they need to learn and things like that. And it just was work is not my forte. And so I enjoyed all the fun teaching part and being with the kids and doing all the fun things. And in fact, when we were homeschooling, we got to travel a lot. That was one of the reasons why we did homeschool, because we got tired of taking their schoolwork on the road with us. And so we did that, but the paperwork was the hard part for me, and so I would get burnt out on that sometimes. So do you have any advice or ideas for moms who, like, there's a part, like, I loved homeschooling, but there's parts of it that were hard for me and just felt kind of tedious, and I got kind of burned out on those pieces of it. Do you have advice or ideas for moms who are feeling like, right now it's February, like we're past the mid year. So if there's a mom listening to this who's homeschooling, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's feeling a little burnt out right now?
All of us feel that way right about now, because we're at that point where all the excitement of Christmas is gone, right? all that, the shiny new curriculum that we bought in September, it's not so shiny anymore. They figured it out. It's like the other one, or it's so, and we don't, the weather is kind of yucky, and we don't have spring where we can go out and garden and do all of that. So we're kind of in that flux time, and it can be rough. It can be, for sure. You're not alone. You're not the only one that hates paperwork. Paperwork is, definitely not I didn't even like grading at night, opening up all of their work and grading it. That was just like laborious for me.
It was
I
really
had
hard
to.
for me. Yeah.
Was it? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I feel better. I did not like that part either, but
Yeah.
we have to do those things that we don't like. We do it for our kids, right? We do
Yep.
it we have to keep that end goal in mind. And with homeschooling, it's kind of a 12-year journey that we're on, right? So if we can kind of keep ourselves going for the long game, knowing that we're in this for the long game, maybe we can focus on that and not the stack of paperwork in front of us. Yeah, there's going to be pieces that aren't great, but we just have to, pray our way through those too, because we have to do them. Because they're supporting our kids. We have to do the paperwork. Sometimes maybe what you're talking about is for the legal requirements of the state, what you have to do. Sometimes that's a lot. Laws change from state to state, and I have an ebook that's called How to Start Homeschooling, Your Step-by-Step Guide, and it's a 10-step system with checklists and links and everything to get moms started homeschooling. And the very first step is finding out the laws of your state. And that sort of dictates the amount of paperwork that you have to do. I will say that you are required to maintain records. You don't have to keep everything that your child ever wrote on. We can throw out some of that stuff. We don't have to keep it all. But it's like their artwork, right? It feels so hard to throw it away. Like at nighttime, you can get it and throw it away when they're not looking. We don't have to keep all of it, but we do have to maintain records in case somebody ever asks for them. I was never asked for anything. I don't know if you, Breanne, were asked for any sort of reports. I was never asked for anything. I haven't, I can't recall any mom that I've worked with who was asked to produce documentation of their homeschool, thankfully. So yeah, that's not the fun part, but we still have to do it. So I wish I had some nice words to say. You don't have to, but we have to do it.
I know. Everything worth doing has some hard parts.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it was worth every minute of grading papers.
Yes. Yeah. And the fact you got to travel with it too, I mean, that's a huge learning experience. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a interview with a lady that was also in our group who homeschools, and she's got 4 children, and that's what they do. They go across the country, and it is amazing. It was never anything that was on my radar of things to do, but it's like, oh wow, that's pretty cool, and all the learning opportunities along the way.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Everything that they would see and just going from place to place and staying for a while. And I mean, that's learning right there. So
yeah. And you're really seeing different cultures as well as you're moving across the country, and you're seeing different people and the way they do different things. You know,
mhm.
now that you're in the South, you know that.
I do. That was a huge culture shock, really, moving from the Pacific Northwest to the South, but in a good way.
Yeah,
We love Tennesseans. We love the South. Everyone is so gracious and kind, and the kids, even the teenagers, say yes, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and I will take that
yeah,
every day. I just think that's so beautiful to have that level of respect, and it was such a difference from where we were previously to being here. Just the way young people behaved around and treated us older folks. It was night and day. So it's lovely here. I love that. I love the Southern hospitality. It's a real thing. It's a real thing,
yeah,
and
It is.
I'm here for it. I like it.
yeah. I saw, interestingly enough, or not, I think it was on YouTube, was sent me a video on yesterday and on socialization. So, and you touched on it a little bit in the beginning, So what are your thoughts, and Bree, chime in too, on socialization and what you see? And because, I mean, that's what, I remember hearing was that, well, your kids won't be socialized. They won't, have the ability to interact with people because they're only, they're not going to be around other children or adults or whatever.
Still, it amazes me that we haven't like fixed that. That's still the question. We haven't, people aren't satisfied with our answers apparently or something. But yeah, I still get that question a lot, and know that there is not one way to socialize your kids. And really, when in life are you ever going to be around in a room with 30 kids or people, adults your own age, right? So I don't see how that view of a classroom is a good way to socialize or teach socialization, because really in a classroom we were always told to sit there quietly. We got in trouble if we socialized with our neighbor, right? So I don't think that true socialization happens in a public school classroom or happens well in a classroom. There are other places to do that. I truly believe that socialization starts at home. Respect for the parents, respect for the grandparents, treating your siblings well. That's the relationship right there. If you can teach your kiddos how to get along together as a family unit, that I think is the first step. And and then as far as meeting other kids, gosh, when my kids were growing up, sometimes we had to like look at our calendar and say, "Oh, we can't add one more thing. You're doing so many things. You're meeting with so many kids." There was art class, there was soccer practice. My oldest son is sports all the time. He would always have a basketball on the floor, rolling it around with his feet when we were at the kitchen table doing school. And then, he played sports his whole life. So always in sports, soccer, football, basketball, all the time. So he grew up with all of these kids on these sports teams. Some were homeschooled, most were not. So he had plenty of opportunities for that. There's church activities. We were involved in Anna's, we were involved in something called Junior Bible Quiz, which actually put the kids in competitive situations with other youth groups from other churches, and it was like a Jeopardy. You'd hit like a Jeopardy panel, you'd hit the button to respond to the question, and it was scripture. It was all scripture. It was learning scripture. And anyway, it was fabulous. So there are so many ways to socialize your kids. Having people over to your home, teaching your kids how to converse with adults in your own home. I mean, there are so many ways to socialize that you're gonna get to that point where you have to stop things and say, no, we can't add one more thing to our calendar because there were just so many opportunities. So I don't think people really understand that we have so many opportunities. I mean, goodness, talking to the checker at your grocery store. If you can learn to treat them kindly and have a conversation with them, that works too. So anyway, that was a very long-winded answer to your question.
No, I'm glad you put that out there because I think there's, it does need to be, that stigma of socialization needs to be brought down.
Yeah,
It really
Yeah.
does.
agreed.
Some
Yeah.
people think that homeschool kids are just the weird kids, but there's a lot of weird public school, and there was a lot of weird kids at the Christian school when I was teaching at the Christian school. So, you
Right?
know, it's it's not just a homeschool thing. It's just anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
I agree with all of your statements about homeschool. I think it's such a ridiculous question, but yeah.
Yeah. And this lady was actually speaking out against that verbiage.
Yeah,
So
yeah, sure, exactly.
I'll send it to you and I'll put it I'll link it in our notes and
That's
your
fine.
ebook. Please send us a link for that because we'll put that in our show notes as well so that people
Oh,
have that
absolutely.
resource.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that would be,
Yes, I would
yeah,
love that. I will get you that link, and I could also, if I can send you two links, I'd like to put our coaching link in there too, because it always, that's where you can get the one-on-one help. And it starts out with the first session is free every time. So we'll
that's
start
awesome.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of intimidating to just go into it and not know anything. I had a lot of moms reach out to me who found out I was homeschooling and just like, how do I get started? How do I do this? And so we need that encouragement, that guidance, that help from someone who's been there before, because there's just so much information out there, so many resources, so much curriculum, that it can be kind of hard to wade through all of that and choose something that's best for your family, for your specific kids' needs and their development. So it's an invaluable resource to have someone so seasoned in homeschooling and doing all of the things. So I think that's amazing.
Oh, thank you. I love it's one of the things I love to talk about. I love to talk about homeschooling. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun for me.
One of the things that we have in our area too is, I think it's for homeschooling families, but it can also not be, is that there's a school called Circle Christian where you can go and the kids can go to certain classes, like maybe they're into higher math and whatnot, and the parents are like, yeah, I don't think so. Prayer is not even going to work here. It would, but right. So, but they have, you can go for certain classes and then, that's it. Just pick
Mhm.
up the art classes or the math or science classes that, maybe are more than you feel like you want to bite off. So it's kind of a hybrid situation, which I think is kind of neat too.
Yeah, that is really
Mhm.
neat.
Mhm.
There's
Those
Yeah.
are we called those co-ops when I was homeschooling here in Tennessee. They call them tutorials.
Okay.
And yeah, and some of them are drop off. The ones I was involved in was always parent led, and we need to be on site and watch some kids or
Okay.
teach some kids, right? And it was like once a week that we'd get together for a co-op like that. Here in Tennessee, there are places called tutorials where you actually drop off your kids. It's like dropping off your kids a couple days, not 5 days a week, but 1 or 2 days a week for classes, for all sorts of classes, core classes as well as the electives. So that's one of the things that can change from state to state. But yeah, there are those things available. If you just don't feel equipped for those higher math classes, or for me, I can do the math. I can't do art. I still draw stick people to this day. So if my kids were going to learn any art, they had to go to somebody else. They weren't going to get it from me. So I enrolled them in a lot of art classes and other things too. But yeah, those sort of classes and availability to homeschoolers just vary greatly from where you are. So
mhm.
yeah, you can always
Yeah.
look into. That's a good place for moms to connect too, because I mean, women need other women in their lives. I'm a huge believer in that. And
Yes.
homeschooling can feel kind of isolating for mom, and having other moms is super, super helpful. So that's a great place to meet them.
Great.
It's really the socialization problem is with the mothers, not.
Yes, yes, that's true.
Yeah.
No, another friend of mine, this is just another opportunity situation. She works for a company as a marketing person for, and maybe you've heard of it or not, Covenant Journey Academy, and it's all online worldwide. And a way to homeschool your child, and you can do one class or you can do all of them. But they're also trying to get it into the churches. And like you said, where the parents would kind of lead the classes, and it would be classrooms with children of all ages. So back
It's
to
fun.
one room schoolhouse,
Yes,
right?
one room. Yeah, yes.
So I just like, I'm like, that's amazing, because
Hmm.
all of these different things that, and maybe I would have gone down that path had I known there was all these different, ways, and maybe they weren't there when I was coming through, but
Hmm.
yeah. So it's yeah, so many different things that can be done now.
Yes, that's true. And there are so many online resources for moms. One issue with moms is if they're working, if you're working full time, how are you going to homeschool your kids? Well, there's online. You can do online courses. You can do everything online if you want to. You can pick one class, like you said, and do one class online. So that I think is something that can be accessed through for moms that are from moms that need to still work. So that's a good tool to have. There are studies coming out now that are showing that kids don't the retention from online learning is not quite the same as
Mm,
one-on-one and actually putting pencil to paper. That the act of writing things down helps us to learn. So my suggestion is to start out with maybe one or two classes online, just see how it goes, monitor
yeah,
it, you know,
yeah,
and so
yeah. I think like anything, we all have different ways of learning. So,
yes, yes.
and what works better for some than others. But yeah,
It's I think it's interesting how many options there are out there now for sure. Even when I was homeschooled my whole life, and even when we were, back in the 80s and 90s, a long time ago now, but there was options to take some of the classes at the school. Like I would go to band class like early in the morning, or like my brothers would do some of the sports things. Like this the school district worked with the homeschoolers so that you could come and take like one or two classes like on campus if you want to, and then still do that. And it's that way here in Nebraska too. They allow that sort of in and out kind of just, one or two things while you're homeschooling. And they even partnered with the community colleges locally too. So when you're old enough, you can take some of the college courses while you're still in high school and things like that too. So there really is a lot of options out there. There's, like you said, homeschool co-ops and different things, and there's a lot of places where people offer lessons and classes during the day for homeschoolers also. So those were fun. We did a lot of art classes and things with our kids, and karate and gymnastics and things to get them moving and have fun. And yeah, there's just a lot out there. There's a lot.
There
So
is. There is. I think some public schools are better at incorporating homeschoolers than others. So,
yeah.
you have to feel that out. My son, the one I mentioned that was into sports, he would play sports after, let's see, starting middle school. We did like local parks and rec sports up until middle school, but at that point, if you wanted to do sports, it was through the school. So I would drive him to the middle school at 2 o'clock every afternoon for basketball practice or football practice or whatever.
Yeah.
And then in high school did the same. So he participated in high school sports too. And my daughter, she was not so much into sports, but she did the program in Washington. It was called Running Start. I don't know if you remember that from
I
Washington, but
did the Running Start program in
did
Washington.
you?
I've never heard anyone else talk about it. Yes, because
Yeah.
I started going to college full time when I was 16 because of the Running Start program. So
Yes,
yeah,
yes, excellent.
yeah,
Yes, oh,
crazy.
good for you. Yeah, my daughter did it too, and so at 17, she graduated with her high school diploma and an AA degree
Same.
from the local.
Yes. Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah.
So talk about a money saver for for kids who are college bound,
Yep.
get your 2 years virtually
yeah,
paid for.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
Books are free, and yeah, we have that
That's great.
too here.
Oh, do you? Oh, good.
They it's called dual enrollment here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can do that. But my oldest actually teaches art in elementary school, and yeah, so I've tried to encourage her. You should do some homeschooling or after school type things of offering it, art, which she does, but only to her children as art club. But in her district, which is very big in art, it's over in the Tampa area, they are actually closing 6 schools in their county. In our neighboring county in Orlando, they're closing 7 schools. So, and I haven't heard about our county if they're closing any or not, but there's a lot of schools, public schools, that are closing. And I do wonder if more people are homeschooling now.
Well, wow. So they're closing because of low enrollment, or are they citing any reasons for? Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
because my daughter, when she started teaching, they have what they call itinerant teachers. And what an itinerant teacher is that they will move between schools because those schools they have too many children for one teacher, so they have to
Mm,
have somebody help fill in.
okay.
So she did that the first year. The second year, she got her own school, and she had an itinerant teacher. Now, and she was worried about her school closing because she's down so many students that now she has to be an itinerant teacher for 1 day a week to another school.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so, I am wondering, one, is it just because people are moving? I don't think people are moving out of Florida. A lot of people seem to be moving here,
Yeah.
But I
Yes,
thought, yeah.
exactly.
right?
Same.
So I do wonder if a lot more families are homeschooling. So it's just I don't know.
Yeah,
Just,
that's a huge amount of schools
it
impacting a
is.
lot of families. Wow.
Yeah.
I do know, well, we've mentioned that homeschooling families has grown virtually exponentially, right?
Mhm.
There's somewhere around 5 million families in the US that are now homeschooling. That's a
Yeah.
lot. That's a big
Yeah.
chunk. But there's also Christian schools too, so some of those people might be choosing private schools instead.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
wow, those are huge changes.
That
That-
it is huge changes, and if you're trying to get a my understanding is if you're trying to get away from the curriculum being taught in public schools, you're not necessarily going to find that in a Christian school either. Sometimes they have the same books.
That could
Interesting.
be
Hmm.
that could be there. I know when I was teaching at a Christian school, it was lovely because if you want to be in a place full of Christian mamas who are going to pray over your kids, we started every day at our school in Bible study together. Well, not Bible study, just devotion, prayer time together, praying over our classrooms, praying in the classroom. So that happens in those schools, but depending on the administration of the school, not everyone in that classroom is going to be a believer and know Jesus, you know?
Um,
So sometimes if kiddos are not doing well at a public school, they'll put them in a Christian school. So you get that type of influence in a Christian school too. But it just depends. That part of it depends on how they administer the school and what the requirements are to be students. You know what I mean? Because it's a private school, they can,
yeah, they can have more dictation over that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I was put into a Christian school in fourth grade, halfway through, because in fifth grade I would have been bussed out to some schools that were not so good. Would have been picked on, I'm sure. But so I was put in this school, and to this day I know the Lord's Prayer because of that, being put in that school. And my family was not, we didn't go to church. So, yeah,
wow.
yeah.
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 So the things that you remember and stick with you, even in that upbringing, even though, that you weren't in, that in a church setting, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. The Lord can reach people everywhere, even in a public school. But yeah, that's amazing that you got to learn the Lord's Prayer there. We had a
Yeah.
lot of scripture learning. I remember our kindergarten teacher would have her kindergartners get up for the Christmas program. So these are kindergartners, and they would recite Psalm 91 in its entirety
Oh,
as a performance, part of the Christian Christmas performance. And it was just, who I don't think we think that kids' brains can do that, but that's the beauty of kids' brains. They can do that and so much more too.
Yeah.
So it was just so beautiful to see that. And probably those kids
that's
are going to
neat.
remember Psalm 91 the rest of their lives, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
For
Well, I
sure.
think it's good to memorize things like that, or anything, to learn how to memorize,
Yes.
because I don't think I necessarily learned that either, except for spelling words. So
Yes.
vocabulary,
Yes.
which I probably forgot after the test. So
Yeah, yeah, we can do that too. We can forget a
right.
lot. Yeah.
That's funny.
So yeah.
Okay. So you said that things have shifted for you in the last few years. So
Mhm.
what's different? How are things looking now?
Well, mostly the shift has occurred because my husband got ill and well, but he's basically a different man now due to illness. And Western medicine has not been helpful for us. The remedy for him right now, as Western medicine has helped him, is just giving pill after pill after pill. And sometimes the next pill is to help with the side effects from the previous pill, you know. And so he was forced pretty much forced into early retirement because of that. So, and it's kind of it's become, I now have more of a caretaker role for my husband. And then I still have our son, our Andrew, who has Down syndrome, still lives with us too. So I'm his caretaker as well, although he's very self-sufficient, and he'll tell you that he's very self-sufficient, but he can't drive. So he's also a sports nut. And so I drive him everywhere, drive him to his work. He works at a restaurant. He loves it. But my husband is not working now, trying to get back into subbing. Some days he can and some days he cannot. And so we have moved into more holistic approach. So I know I would actually love to talk to you guys about that. And I just feel like we took our first step towards that in getting involved with oils, and which he does. He breathes and applies lots of oils, essential oils every day, and that really helps him a lot. We also have looked at our home, and we're trying to get rid of toxins in our home, which I believe affects everything more than we've known over the years. And so that's where we are now. And I try, it seems like cleaning up our home environment, making it less toxic for our family, really dovetails nicely with homeschooling too, because we are in our home all day, every day as homeschoolers, right? We don't want to be putting things in the air in our home that are not beneficial for our kids. And so I've learned about all the oils and all the supplements. The supplements have been great for my husband and for me too. So we're really leaning into that more. And yeah, it's been a journey, and it just changes everything when your spouse is not well. So yeah, so that's where we are right now. Leaning on the Lord through all of that too, to point us in the right direction for more healing, because we're waiting for his healing. That's where we are right now.
Yeah. I think that's amazing that you're incorporating that holistic, approach to your home and just being as healthy as you can be. I mean, that's where God wants us to, take care of the bodies that he's entrusted us with. And
Absolutely.
there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of things out there that are not so good for our bodies, and once your eyes are kind of open to that, it's like, oh wow. Yeah.
Exactly. Once you learn, I mean, we learn better. When we learn, we do better, right? When we
Yes.
understand what's out there, then we can make the appropriate changes. And sometimes
Yeah.
those are pretty big changes
Mm-hmm.
and kind of shocking sometimes.
Agreed.
um, what we've accepted as the norm, right, for so long, and then
Yeah.
we understand what it's actually doing to our bodies and to our kids' bodies, and
Mm-hmm.
that's when it's time to make a change.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. I love
Yeah.
that you're incorporating that
Yeah.
into your being with homeschool families, because that's so important, especially for your learning environment. If you can optimize that, you can optimize learning and have a safe and
Yeah.
healthy home environment to learn in. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Mind, body, spirit came to mind for that.
Yep. They're
Yes.
all one,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yep.
Yes.
You gotta be.
Yep.
Yep.
So, yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming to share your journey with us today, and
Yes,
all of
thank you,
the
Brianne.
all of your encouragement, all of your thoughts. It's just been a really, really fun conversation, and I really hope this encourages some moms out there who are thinking about homeschooling to give you a call and have that first coaching call and get their questions answered and talk through their concerns and what that could look like for their families. So we'll leave everything in the show notes for you to go check it out and hopefully
Yeah.
get some new resources.
Yeah. And if you're not the homeschooling mom or one that's going to go there, then maybe you know somebody that this needs to be shared with. So please do share it. So more people, more moms, more families can get homeschooling their children and be in a great environment for learning.
Yes. Yes, that would be great. Thank you for listing all of those things. And that's what I'm here for, to serve mamas and get them on the right track where the Lord would have them be. Yeah.
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 Sometimes it's just a conversation, but sometimes it's a conversation followed by action. So, and either of those are fine. It's what I love to talk about. So,
If this episode encouraged you,
Here with someone who might know. Every share helps spread hope because God always meets us in the middle of our story.
Like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.